Remember when I told you in the introduction of the book, in the first video, that this book will enable you to take control of your relationships, manage them, harness them, and make them assist you in achieving your goals? Habits 4, 5, and 6 from the book The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by the incredibly great author Stephen R. Covey. In this video, prepare your favorite cup of coffee, my dear follower, or your preferred drink, and let's enjoy. Peace be upon you and the mercy of Allah and His blessings. Welcome, my friend, to the Dopamine Caffeine channel, where we combine coffee, music, and books. I am your brother Fahad Al-Tumi. In this channel, I read books and provide you with their benefits. If you want to gain the benefits of reading without actually reading, subscribe to the channel. As you may already know, when Stephen Covey wrote this book, the purpose was to discuss the art of dealing with human relationships, much like Dale Carnegie's book. How do you influence others and make friends? That book purely talked about the art of dealing with human relationships. As for the purpose of the 7 habits, it teaches you how to achieve effectiveness in every aspect of your life, effectiveness in terms of productivity, in terms of gaining value. How do you reap the rewards from the theory of the farm? In this context, Stephen Covey teaches you how to achieve effectiveness in your relationships. How do you make your relationships fruitful and beneficial? Seriously, my dear follower, have you ever thought that relationships must be fruitful and beneficial? Personally, I used to believe that the most important thing in a relationship was stability, devoid of problems, and enduring. Stephen Covey says that this is nice, but they must be fruitful and beneficial. Your relationship with your parents, siblings, it must be beneficial. And your relationship with your life partner, specifically, shouldn't just revolve around sharing life details, having children, and being a family. That's not it. No, no, no. Your relationship with your life partner must be fruitful. Your life partner should help you in self-development, in improving your situation, and in achieving your dreams. And you, in turn, should help them achieve things. After hearing all of this from Stephen Covey, I decided to ask my future wife about her dreams, goals, and aspirations, so that I can assist her in achieving those things. Similarly, I share my dreams, aspirations, and goals with her so she can help me. And by the way, this principle shouldn't just apply to your life partner, it applies to your parents, siblings, and close relations. You try to help them, and they help you. This is the kind of relationships Stephen Covey talks about, beneficial relationships. I didn't tell you this person is crazy, but Stephen Covey said he would give you 3 habits to help you make your relationships beneficial, whether they're personal or professional relationships or business relationships. But you, my dear follower, should consider that building a relationship with anyone, especially your life partner, doesn't necessarily require you and them to be identical or similar. You don't need to share the same ideas, tastes in food and clothing, interests, activities, or personalities. It's not necessary. What matters is that you and they are in agreement despite your differences. That's the most important thing, and without agreement, the relationship won't exist. Sound and stable relationships are based on this agreement. If they're not sound or stable, they won't last long. And, of course, this type of relationship isn't beneficial. Let's start, my friend, the follower, with the 4th habit. In this habit, Stephen Covey talks about 6 ways to achieve benefit from any relationship, whether it's a personal relationship where you learn how to achieve agreement or a professional or business relationship where you learn how to make deals. In the end, it's about agreement. The first of these methods is the win-win approach, where both parties gain. we all agree that this is the best way to achieve benefit. Stephen Covey says there's no doubt about that. However, I have a better approach than the win-win approach, which I will explain in a moment. Of course, he tells you that the win-win approach is based on cooperation, not on a competitive spirit, like the second approach, the win-lose approach, where one party gains and the other loses, or vice versa. He tells you that this approach is only present in competitive spaces with numerous comparisons. If your intellectual perspective is competitive or based on comparisons of who's better, you will always use the win-lose approach. He says that this approach is definitely not healthy in relationships. He delivers a message to every father and mother: be careful not to create a competitive spirit among your children. Don't open the door to comparisons. Hey, your academic level isn't like your siblings. Look at your sibling, so talented at school, aren't you, too? Why don't you become like your sister? She's so talented and successful. This type of comparison will create this perspective in your children, and they will adopt the win-lose approach. They will always think about how to win. She wins to beat her sister, or he wins to surpass his brother. This also applies to managers. May they understand this. May they avoid creating a competitive environment among their employees. Never think that you'll achieve efficiency or productivity among your employees by creating a competitive and comparative atmosphere. The Best Employee of the Month award, Best Employee of the Quarter, or Employee of the Year, all of this is empty talk. Try to foster a spirit of cooperation among them, not a spirit of competition. So, parents, managers, and others, be aware of creating a competitive spirit, as it kills efficiency. And Stephen Covey says the win-lose approach, sometimes, is necessary in football matches, sports activities in general, competitions, and contests, etc. He tells you that in those activities, okay, the win-lose approach is not that bad to this extent. However, in your personal and professional relationships, never resort to this approach. It will destroy the relationship. On the contrary, the lose-win approach is better. I lose and sacrifice for you to win. People who live by this pattern, and on this approach, become very easy prey for those who use the win-lose approach. They always take advantage of them. The problem is that those who use the sacrifice approach, like sacrificing for someone else to win, believe that this approach is healthy for the relationship or serves the relationship's best interest. This idea is wrong. This approach damages the relationship more than it benefits it. It's also harmful to the individuals who use it. They suppress feelings of disappointment, sadness, and inhibition. The problem is that these feelings won't remain suppressed for a lifetime. They will manifest, but in their ugliest forms, such as physical illnesses like cancer, strokes, colitis, diabetes, and hypertension, or in psychological disorders like depression and more. So, the lose-win and sacrifice approach for the sake of others winning is not the ideal approach to achieve effectiveness. And Stephen Covey says no. It is detrimental to health because those who follow this approach tend to bury feelings of disappointment, sadness, and repression. These feelings won't remain buried throughout life, they will surface. And when they do, they can manifest in physical ailments such as cancer, heart attacks, colon issues, diabetes, high blood pressure, or psychological disorders like depression and more. Therefore, the lose-win and sacrificing approach for others to win is not the ideal way to achieve effectiveness. He then introduces the extremely harmful lose-lose approach. There are people who are so passionate about it, may Allah protect us. It's the lose-lose approach, where neither I win nor you win. And I swear, neither I nor you would be happy with that outcome. And regarding this approach, Stephen Covey narrates the story of a wife who filed for divorce from her husband and won the case. The judge ruled that she would get half of the husband's assets. When they lost the case, the husband realized he was the loser, so he sold all of his properties, cars, bonds, and more for just $25. It's truly baffling. And the wife received $12.50, and he kept $12.50. It's a disgrace. This is the lose-lose approach. People who try to use the win-lose approach often end up resorting to the lose-lose or lose-win approach. The fifth approach is somewhat strange. This approach is called win-win or no deal. How? Well, I'll tell you. If you attempt to go with the win-win approach but can't, you'll likely resort to either the win-lose or lose-win approach or the lose-lose approach. The lose-lose approach, in which nobody wins, and the Allah willing, it's a terrible outcome. Stephen Covey explains that the best solution is to use the win-win or no-deal approach. Either I benefit, or I don't agree to it at all. I don't agree, oh my eyes. I don't agree at all. I don't agree at all. Let's assume, for example, you and your life partner. You agreed to go to a certain restaurant or travel to a specific city, and you tried to find a place that suits both of you. The two of you are trying to achieve the win-win outcome. If you can't achieve that, then abandon the outing altogether. Precisely, that's what it means. Of course, this concept applies to everything, to a new lifestyle, a new plan, a new goal. When you want to achieve something together, it's a form of change you want to bring into your life. Or it can be about a deal between you and one of your partners or a business deal with one of the traders. If you can't achieve the win-win approach, then resort to no deal. In conclusion, the fourth habit is about striving for mutual agreement and benefit as much as possible. Whenever you decide to seek benefit from any relationship, you must rely on the fifth habit, which advises you to try to understand others as much as possible. Make them understand you. This concept is amazing, truly. Try to understand the other person as much as possible. Never attempt to make them understand you. Let's say you've had some problems with your eyes and decided to see an eye doctor. After listening to your complaint, the doctor took off his glasses and gave them to you, saying, "Please wear them. I've been wearing them for 10 years, and they've really helped me. You can keep these glasses." So, I told him, "It's terrible. I can't see anything at all." The doctor asked you, "What's the line?" "It's fine with me." "Try harder," he said. I replied, "I am trying, but everything is still dark, and I can't see clearly." He said, "All right, try more. Try to think positively, doctor." I said, "I can't see anything." He scolded you, saying, "What an ungrateful person you are, after all I've done to help you." Stephen says, "What are the chances of you returning to this doctor?" Most likely, you won't go back to him. Never. The point in the example between you and the doctor is that the doctor represents the person who always tries to make you understand and see life from different perspectives. He tells you that he's tried it for 10 years, and it works for him perfectly. This approach is excellent, but it won't lead you to a solution if you still don't understand. So, be careful, my dear follower, that you don't become the eye doctor. Try your best to understand others well. On the subject of understanding others, let me tell you the story of Abraham Lincoln. Dale Carnegie mentioned it in his book How to Win Friends and Influence People. He said that if you take away just one thing from this book, let it be the importance of understanding others. Imagine talking about the greatest book on human relations, and Carnegie says that if you only get the understanding others part, that's sufficient. In 1861, Abraham Lincoln assumed the presidency of the United States of America. In the same year, and right after taking office, the American Civil War began. This war is considered the strongest domestic conflict in the history of the United States, up to this day. Of course, the story of the American Civil War is very captivating, but it's lengthy. The witness in this story is that the United States was divided into two parts. The first part was represented by the federal government led by Abraham Lincoln, and the second part consisted of the states that decided to secede from the American government. They were called the secessionists. Anyway, the United States, with its strong federal army, had the upper hand in almost all battles in this Civil War. But the most important battle of this war was led by a legendary general from the secessionist army. His name was Lee. For me or against me. The entire American Civil War revolved around this battle. If the United States won against General Lee in this battle, the Civil War would end immediately. What happened was that General Lee drove the federal government nearly mad. Every battle he entered, he turned the tables on them. Lincoln kept appointing one general after another, and Lee kept outsmarting them. He broke their morale. So, Lincoln decided to appoint a general and remove him, then appoint another general and remove him. Lincoln kept shuffling generals to try and win this battle. Why? Because if he appointed a general, it meant he acknowledged this general. If he removed a general, it meant he demoted him. So, the morale of that general would plummet. And Lincoln knew that if he promoted a general, he couldn't remove him without causing damage to the federal government's morale. And then came General Lee. He was considered a bit hesitant. His battlefield experience was very limited and weak. One day during the war, a strong storm occurred. Amazingly, for the first time, the Federal Army was stronger than General Lee's. To the extent that they besieged General Lee to the point where he was near a river, and at that moment, General Lee's defeat was inevitable. He couldn't cross the river, and his army was weak. The upper hand was with General Lee. The moment he heard this news, he sent a swift telegram to General Lee, saying, "General Lee, attack tonight, stop. Don't ever set up the tents, don't establish a military camp. Continue the attack, and finish him off now and immediately. As soon as the general wins, in this battle, the Civil War will end immediately." That's what happened, my friend. The follower, General Lee, replied to Abraham Lincoln with a telegram saying that he wouldn't attack. Of course, Lincoln was sitting in the corner, shouting back at him, saying, "I'm telling you to attack, attack now and immediately. I am the President of the United States of America, and I'm telling you to attack, it's the war and leave me alone." He responded, saying, "What juice? By God, I won't attack, definitely not. Right, straighten out." Instead of he doesn't want to. And indeed, he set up the tents, and he didn't attack until the river's water level lowered, and General Lee managed to escape. Imagine, my friend, due to this move, the war lasted for 4 years just because General Lee didn't attack. Did you know that Abraham Lincoln was on the brink of losing the presidency of the United States of America because of his failure in the Civil War? And the tragedy is that this failure wasn't his. Whose failure was it? Of course, it was General Lee's. Lincoln wrote a letter to General Lee, full of scathing criticism and reprimands, because he missed this heaven-sent opportunity to end the war. And what happened, my friend, is that after the war ended 4 years later, and Lincoln was assassinated, they found this letter in his office in the White House. Abraham Lincoln never sent this letter. And Dale Carnegie says, "Because I've read 100 biographies about Abraham Lincoln and I know how he perceived understanding others. It's as if I can imagine that you're standing in front of the police in the White House, and he says, "Wait, let me read it to you from the book directly." And it's as if I can imagine that after he wrote this letter, he stood in front of the police in the White House and said, "I'll wait a minute. Perhaps I should not have rushed. It's easy for me to sit here in the peaceful atmosphere of the White House, and I'll order the neighbors to attack. But if I were in his place and witnessed what General Lee had witnessed in terms of the bloodshed during the past week, and if I heard the cries and screams of the wounded and dying, perhaps this would lead me not to desire to attack, just like General Lee did. Not just that, but if I had the same traits of hesitation that exist in General Lee's personality, I might have done the same." Oh, you want to understand others? You either understand others like that, or you don't think you understand others at all. Not only did he put himself in General Lee's shoes, but he also said, "If my personality were like his." Imagine, it means that Abraham Lincoln considered, when trying to understand another person's actions or words, why they did this or why they said that, to consider their situation and state of mind in that moment. Consider all the experiences and intellectual perspectives that have shaped them, from the moment they were born until today. All of this would influence their decisions, their actions, or the words they uttered in that moment. This is the essence of understanding others. Believe me, if you always try to understand others in this manner, you will always reach justification and a solution. If you want to build the kind of agreement that exists in habit for and achieve mutual benefit in any relationship, try to understand others well, just like Abraham Lincoln did, and even better. And I swear, my friend, think about the people you rush to judge. Think about how you didn't try to understand them like Abraham Lincoln did. If you had taken their personalities and the surrounding circumstances into consideration, in that moment, in their psychological state on that day, and all the experiences they have gone through and have been shaping and cultivating them from birth until today, you might not have rushed to negatively judge them. That's the true understanding of others. By the way, Dale Carnegie's book is enjoyable, very enjoyable, and it seems to be the book I'll explain in the next series, because for me, it's the best book I've read in personal development. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is the best book I've read on human relationships, and How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie is extremely fascinating and enjoyable. The book I've read so far. Anyway, my friend, the 6th and final habit of collective victory is the habit of synergy with others. And let me tell you, the concept of synergy is very deep, not as shallow as we often think of it. There's a difference between assistance and synergy. Assistance is when I help you with your problem or help you achieve your goal. I help you. As for synergy, it's when I deal with the goal you want to achieve as my own goal, and the problem you want to solve as my own problem. I stand shoulder to shoulder with you, and I live what you live, and I think what you think. That's synergy. He tells you that once you adopt the mindset of synergy and not just assistance, the option of whether to help or not won't even cross your mind. Never. You'll see the issue as something that concerns you. It's your issue, your problem, and the goal is your goal. He also says that if you genuinely synergize with others, rest assured that they will synergize with you, and you'll find it's a genuine law that what you offer to people, they'll offer back to you. And don't even think that I will synergize with you so that I wait for you to synergize with me. That's not synergy, that's assistance. But synergy is when I live your situation, and I don't expect anything from you because I see your problem as my problem. If I solve it, it's as if I've solved my own problem. This is synergy. So, these 3 habits, my friend, when combined, will enable you to achieve effectiveness on the level of relationships, and your relationships will be highly productive and valuable. Up to this point, my friend, we have explained all the habits, and there's only one habit left, which is the habit of balance. And, God willing, we'll explain this habit next week. You will really, 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 really like it. I am confident, God willing. Share this video, my friend, the follower, and send it to anyone you think could benefit from it. And don't forget to like and subscribe. The dopamine dose has ended. I'll see you in the next episode with an even better and more beautiful dose, God willing. Peace be upon you.